Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Become a Villain in Highschool DXD Part 12. Before we start, please go support RageRevan for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 34. Beginning of the finale. Malak and Vader were facing off against the two cats that they were able to isolate and ambush as Kaneko and Kuroka desperately tried to hold them off. They were heavily panting due to their fight against the monster in front of them. This is hardly a challenge. Vader spoke with a mocking grin as Malak responded, "Don't get cocky, we need the two alive, not dead." "I am aware." Vader responded. He knew that his master is not the kind to let go of a crucial piece of information to use against their enemies. As Vader approached them and used telekinesis to start choking them, they felt like as if their life was going to die. Malak approached them. His jet yellow eyes matched the cat-like eyes of both Shirin and Kuroka, where the two Nekashas looked at Malak with fear. "You will make handy hosts for that, as well as tell us all about the Nibiru's experiments," that is what he demands. Kuroka struggled to keep up with them as she angrily responded with the last of the strength she had. I will never tell anything. Monsters," Kuroka declared as she soon passed out. Kaneko then spoke with fear and worry, and Nisama. Kaneko also passed out as the two girls were rendered unconscious as Vader walked to them, with Malak taking the hair clip off Kaneko's hair and speaking, "Let's take them back to base. Lord Issei would love his new sleeper agents." "Indeed, let's take them back to Nibiru's territory." Both Malak and Vader lifted the girls each and teleported back to the Nibiru's territory. They knew what was going to happen next. Scene change. Nibiru's territory, 8:30 p.m. Issei and Malakota had placed the bodies of Coriana and Kusha down on the ground. Their plan had remained a success, and they soon dropped their bodies on the ground. They were joined by Grievous and Kalani, as Grievous asked, "So this is the place where you managed to find the Malibranch?" Issei nodded as he spoke with a smile, "Meet Malakota everyone." Malakota walked forward and bowed with a smile, "So you are my working co-partners, it is a pleasure to meet you, Grievous." Grievous chuckled as he greeted, "Oh, I like her, it is nice to meet you too, Malakota." The droid general put his hand forward as Malakota returned the handshake with a smile of her own. The leader of the Malibranch seemed to respect Grievous, seeing him as someone equal to her. After a while, Malak and Vader also teleported into their base. As they bring in the unconscious bodies of Kuroka and Kaneko, they then speak, "Mission successful." "My lord, why did you bring these two Nekamatas with you?" Issei looked at Malakota and spoke with a smile, "You see, one of them took two evil pieces, while the other is a Senjutsu user. Their power will be perfectly suited for the Malibranch." "Are you sure?" "They don't seem to be powerful. I am not judging your decision in any way." Issei spoke to Malakota with a smile, "Appearances can be deceiving. Malakota." Malakota nodded. She started to have a bit of faith in Issei, as Malak asked, looking at her, "So you must be the Malakota, the leader of the Malibranch?" Malakota looked at her as Issei introduced her, "Meet Malak, my right-hand man, and Vader, a general similar to Grievous and Kalani." Malakota nodded as Vader asked, "It is nice to meet you too, Malakota. So you have decided to join Master Issei in his war against the factions." Malakota responded with a smirk of her own, "Indeed, my Malibranch crave battle, and I believe following my lord will satisfy it. We have all come into union that my lord will satisfy our urge for war." "I see. Or maybe you wish to add her to your harem, Issei." Malak spoke with a snarky grin, causing Issei to turn beet red as he spoke in denial while shaking his head, "And no, I have seen him having an interest in the figure of Malakota." Kalani added his own words, causing Issei to have a reddened look as Grievous added, "I can see why Lord Issei likes her, her figure can charm even the strongest of men." Issei became even more red as Vader remained silent yet amused. Malakota then tapped Issei's shirt as she spoke while looking away with a small smile, "My lord, if you don't mind." Issei looked at her as she responded with a red tone, "If you wish to use my body for those purposes, then, I don't mind." Issei became completely red. He had a flushed look on his face as he exclaimed in response, "Not helping, Malakota." Malakota smiled even more, and her reddened expression was even more prevalent as she spoke, "I can also have your children, if you want." It caused all four to remain silent and surprised. They were not expecting her to act as Kalani asked with a surprised tone, "You can have children? I thought you were an artificial creation." "I can, my body composition in human form is similar to that of an angel or devil. I can have children. I am still a woman, despite being a living weapon." The four nodded as they all spoke with unison, "Yeah, that makes sense." Issei soon grunted, gathering their attention, and spoke with a smile, "I'd say we should probably wake those two up." Issei pointed towards Kaneko and Kuroka as someone from Malakota's Malibranch spoke up. As it spoke, "Allow this jester to entertain you." The voice was described to be a male person and had a squeaky voice as Malakota spoke with a smile as she recognized him to be Farfarello, the prankster, also nicknamed Goblin, as she spoke, "So you have decided to speak, Farfarello." "Indeed, my leader." Farfarello then addressed Issei, "My lord, I like this white cat as my host, can I please take her, pretty please?" I can make her do some party tricks. Issei looked at her and shrugged, sure, why not? I won't disappoint you. Farfarello then summoned a demonic magic circle that had dirty cold fish water as he splashed onto the two girls. Farfarello then spoke, worry not, neither five of you won't get the scent and the water will go away in a second. The girls woke up as soon as they did so, they sniffed around for fish, not caring that they were in enemy territory, they started to lick each other's arms, as Malak asked, what did you do Farfarello? Let's just say they think that their hands are fish, the water I put on them was enchanted, don't worry, the effects should go away later on. The girls snapped out of it and soon enough started to cough up when they realized what they were doing as they looked around their new location. Hiroka went pale as she recognized this place, this was the Nibiru's territory where she was experimented on. Why am I here? Kaneko looked at her sister with a tone of surprise as she could sense this place to have some sense of familiarity towards her. The two looked at Malak as they failed to notice the other four people present alongside them due to the darkness that was present in the mansion. Issei looked towards Kalani and muttered, put a barrier that prevents teleportation, we don't want our guests to escape. As you wish. Kalani soon activated a barrier that would do so as Malak spoke, seems like our guests have woken up. Why did you bring me here? Kuroka spoke with anger and fear as Kaneko was nervous, Malak only cackled as he responded, I will let him tell you about it. Issei soon appeared from the shadows, causing their eyes to be completely wide-eyed, there was no way he was now one of them. He now worked with the droid faction, and that alone scared them to no bounds, this meant that the factions are completely done for, Issei only spoke with a smile. Hello, Kuroka. Shirin. Issei looked at the two Nekashas with a smile, with them being in complete horror upon witnessing who really was in front of them, as Kuroka asked, are you really Issei? Or is that someone else? No, I am the real Issei. Issei summoned the boosted gear in his left hand as he continued, does this prove who I really am? Kuroka gulped in horror, she soon lost her fear and became angry, realizing that Issei was a traitor, even Kaneko was equally angered, but what Issei said made her loosen her anger. And besides, Kuroka, remember this place, this is the same place where you along with your sister were experimented, remember? Issei spoke with a smile as he looked towards Kuroka, as a sinister grin started to form on his face, Kuroka shivered seeing the malevolent side of Issei, while Kaneko remained confused by what she was witnessing. The reason was simple, Kaneko was too young to understand what was happening, while Kuroka was not, she remembered the horrifying experimentations that her former master used to perform on her. She feared that she had come back to the same place that had haunted her for years. The same place where your former master, the current header I should say, the now deceased head of Nibiru's experimented on you, to see your powers. The result of your experimentation, that was you Kuroka. Kuroka shivered when she remembered more of her horrifying past, she remembered her screams courtesy of that accursed man, she looked at Issei in horror, unable to understand why, and how did he of all people, come to know of this, while Kaneko asked her sister, Ni-sama, what is Issei talking about? Kuroka croaked in response, and nothing asked Shirin. Oh you don't know Kaneko? Kuroka looked at Issei, who had a smile, she was wondering what Issei plans to do with Nibiru's plans, now that he has them, he then continued, can you tell me why Kuroka was considered a stray? It was because she killed her former master. Issei nodded in understanding that was the truth that was released to the public, but it was no short of a white lie. Sadly, even the four new Satans were in the dark about this. But I am afraid, was only the half-truth. Kuroka seemed to be looking down in sadness, knowing the real reason why she had to abandon her sister. Kaneko looked at Issei wondering what he knew about her and her sister's past, which only he and her older sister knew. Yes, Kuroka did kill her master, but the reason she killed her, that being her being drunk on power, that was a complete lie, made from bad investigation and false assumptions. Kuroka nodded in agreement, she couldn't deny what Issei said was wrong. Kaneko wanted to know more at this point as she asked, then what really happened? It was because the former head wanted to experiment on you Shirin, research leads were often resulting in dead ends, as a result the head wanted to experiment on Shirin. Kuroka did not like that one bit and she managed to kill the Nibiru's head, along with all those that supported him in his actions. She knew she was going to be hunted, due to now being called a stray devil, she ran away, leaving you to deal with the consequences of her actions. Issei spoke with a sigh as he continued, I think you know what happened after that right? Kaneko nodded as she looked at her older sister, as she could see her crying, remembering more of her past, she then spoke, He is right. He knows everything. You mean why? Kaneko also started to tear up upon realizing that she treated her older sister like a criminal, as Kuroka responded, I am sorry Shirin. It was my only option. No, Ni-sama, don't be. I shouldn't have treated you like a criminal. Kaneko spoke sadly as she rubbed the tears of her eyes, with Issei then speaking, wow, so much love, where was that love for such a long time Kaneko? Answer me. You shouldn't be talking about love, a traitorous psychopath has no love in his heart. Issei shook his head upon Kuroka's outburst. Malakota and Grievous were ready to teach her a lesson, but were stopped by Issei, who spoke to her. You made me into this psychopath, Kuroka, Kaneko, don't you forget that. Kuroka lost her anger and realized the gravity of her mistake. Fear and guilt overtook her heart. She hated herself for being similar to her mother, choosing someone and loving them unconditionally, even when the opposing one only saw her for lust. While Kaneko had similar emotions for hurting Issei due to listening to Dai's lies, as Issei continued, and if I am a psychopath, what makes Kaneko or you as a matter of fact? I am pretty sure you Kuroka must have killed many for survival, and Kaneko used to hurt me on a daily basis when she was with Dai, manipulated by the lies of my foolish little brother, so if I am a psychopath, what makes the two of you? Please do enlighten me with your knowledge. The girls became even more guiltier as Malak approached him and spoke. We are wasting time with these fools, we have better things to do. Malak spoke as Malakota soon comes towards Issei, as Kuroka speaks. Roswis. Malakota shook her head and spoke, you may have never seen me in person, but my name is Malakota, you may remember me as the leader of the Malibranch. Kuroka became completely pale when she heard of this, she was familiar with the infamous leader of the Malibranch, knowing her for her sheer ruthlessness and being a living weapon. Her former master intended to have some plans for the Malibranch, and seeing the leader in person is something that feared her as well. Kaneko looked at the leader in confusion as she asked, how did you know of this? Kuroka had an idea, there was no way he could have known of this unless someone led him to this, there was only one team that properly knew of her past, and that was the volley team, she prayed that one of them was not a traitor. Simple, you can thank Valerie for this, she has been quite a good spy ever since she joined us in our endeavors. Kuroka and Kaneko became pale, their own leader was a spy, this meant that many others were spies, making them wonder who else was a spy. The betrayal had Kuroka the most, since she trusted Valerie the most, and now she had become her enemy. She gritted her teeth in anger and sadness, all this happened because they had faith and trusted the wrong brother, while they tormented and harassed the right and true brother. Malakota, please come forward. Malakota did so as she nodded, he then spoke, once I am done converting them into sleeper agents, I will let you choose which of the sleeper agents you want to make the Malibranch, sounds good. I will be honored my lord. Issei brought out Alpheka Tyrant as he spoke, don't worry, it will be all over soon. Issei threw some nails at the girls before they could react, they were relatively easy to corrupt as they soon passed out, they had tears from their eyes as Issei looked at Malakota. The other sleeper agents should be delivered to you back at base. You know what you have to do, right? Malakota spoke with a smile as she responded, I won't disappoint you, my lord. I will lead you there. Malakota nodded as she and Malak teleported alongside Vader who also decided to join, leaving Issei, Grievous and Kalani in the same room. Issei soon sent the 4 newly made sleeper agents back to their base, as Grievous spoke. I brought the materials you asked me to do so. Quidanium alloy, you asked me to bring. Issei looked at the material, as he looked at it and spoke, this needs work, but that'll do. Artemis had a tough time bringing this in, but we were able to collect enough to do so. Grievous then continued, as Kalani responded, this would be enough for the inner regions of the Death Star, for the outer part, we can use Durasteel. That would work, Kalani. Grievous walked forward and showed Issei one of the Durasteel, he looked at it and nodded with approval. Good, very good. Let us begin with the construction. Issei spoke as Kalani and Grievous nodded, the droids could be able to handle with the construction work, and eventually they should be done with the construction within a few weeks. Kalani, take the hair clip and extract all the data present, do the same for Kuroka's memories as well, alright. Kalani nodded in understanding as he knew that he is not going to disappoint his master in any way. Scene change. Haidu residence, 10:30 p.m. Issei was back in his room, designing the blueprint of the Death Star. As he looked at the designing, he had already knew the power source for the Death Star, that being the Malibranch. He had considered letting Malakota lead and power the Death Star, which would be useful in completely annihilating the forces of the factions. But his first and primary target for the Death Star is the Norse faction, or more accurately, the Norse Armada. They were still an army aside from the Greeks, Shinto and devils that have yet to be eliminated, the Yokai, the angels and the fallen angels have all fallen, only leaving a few survivors. Then the vampires, who were still recovering from the events of the vampire civil war, it will soon end when the super longinus will be used against them. Soon enough, someone enters his room, as she calls out to Issei, hey Ice. Issei turns around to see Nyx coming in, she wore a nightgown that showed her body completely as she asked with a smile, you free? Right now? Yes. Say where is Charlie and Quinn? Issei looked at Nyx who spoke, they are with Malakota and Malak preparing the sleeper agents, the good thing was that you teleported the new sleepers back to their base. Indeed, and Kalani has been working hard to see the information that Kuroka and Kaneko's hair clip contains, it was hidden in such plain sight, no wonder things have been acting like this. Issei spoke with a smile, happy with the developments that have been going on, the super devil research that the parents of Kaneko and Kuroka have been hiding from the rest of the world. Nyx nods as she soon asks, I never knew Malakota was a woman, did you know? Nope, I had no idea, but I'd be surprised, she was designed to basically appease Lucifer. Nyx nodded in understanding, she heard that Malakota may be someone that would fall for Issei, but she was not going to let that happen. She approaches closer to Issei and climbs on his chair, her behind stuck close to Issei's lower abdominal region as she sat on Issei's body. Issei had a red expression on his cheek, while Nyx had a smirk. She pretended to read the Death Star blueprints as she looked at them and spoke, so this is the faction-destroying super weapon. Issei looked at her and nodded. Yes, but it can be so much more, it can easily destroy planets completely leaving no trace of it. I will be using all of the malibranch for this. Nyx nodded with a smile, as she soon turned around and kept her hands on Issei. She then spoke, say Issei. Yeah. Nyx looked at Issei and spoke, I wonder what will happen next. Our relationship has already been reached to such a level that I am one of your mates. Do you wish to do it with me today? As much as I would love to, not today I am afraid. I have to complete the final touches of the blueprint, but soon enough, I promise you Nyx, the next time we do it, I won't leave until you become pregnant. Nyx had a red tint on her face, the prospect of her being a mother was still new to her. While in mythology, she was stated to have given birth to an Aroi and Hypnos, the truth was that they were mere creations of her and her brother. She is actually a virgin, before she met Issei that was, and did the deed with him. She loved him more than anything or anyone else. But the prospect of her being a mother was still something new to her. Regardless, she would be happy that she would finally have her very own child. I see. Nyx spoke with an understanding smile, as she spoke, then can you let me stay here till you are done, this is one of the few times we are alone. Sure. Nyx, you needn't ask for things like this, I will always have time for you, no matter what happens. Issei brings her closer and kisses her on the mouth, Nyx wholeheartedly returns the kiss. She wanted to spend as much time as she wanted to with Issei. They soon then split up, as Nyx responds, I will be seated on your bed. And I'll be waiting, okay? Issei looked at her and nodded. She soon got up from the chair, as Issei continued to work on the blueprints of the Death Star. He wanted to end this war as soon as possible, he was growing tired of the factions at this point. Scene change. Malak's base, 11 p.m. So how are the sleeper agents? Malak looked at Malakota as she saw in front of them her sleeper agents, that being Yasaka, Penemu, Akeno, Gasper, Asia, Valerie, the first 6 sleeper agents, and then the new ones, that being Kaneko, Kuroka, Koriana and Kusha, all of whom had hollowed looks on their faces, their old inner selves were already broken at this point, except the 4 new ones that had recently joined, still had hope that someone will come for them and save them, they hope that by stopping Issei, they will stop him and revert everything back to normal. Sadly, no one will come for them. They are perfectly attuned for my malibranch, soon enough, they will be a part of them as well. Malakota responded with a smile of her own as she released the remaining 11 orbs, 2 of each went towards Penemu and Yasaka, taking their bodies as mere hosts, while the remaining went to the other sleeper agents. In reality the sleeper agents were just mere husks or skins for the malibranch, as they soon got up. Yasaka then spoke with a smile, using her voice. Seems like my lord knows how to choose his bodies well. One of the malibranch present inside of her body noted, she seemed satisfied with her new host body, she could sense the overflowing senjutsu inside of her kitsune body, she looked towards Asia as she added, Lady Malakota, these bodies are perfectly attuned for our body, we are all ready for combat. The malibranch bowed in front of Malakota who smiled in response, she then looked towards Malak and spoke, you can treat them as regular army men now, their old selves are as good as gone. I see, come you all, we have some work to do. Malak spoke with a commanding tone as the new malibranch nodded in understanding, as they all left the holding cell they were in, their old inner selves were completely gone, replaced by the malibranch, but they kept their memories and looked like the same. They were eternally loyal to Issei and Malakota. Meanwhile, in another location of the base, Quinella and Charlotte, along with Ingvild and Valerie were talking to Aine, who was practicing her magic. So how did I do? Aine asked with hope, hoping that she would earn the approval of her friend superiors that gave her a second chance at living. She looked at the 4 half-devils that are present, to which Quinella gave her own words, you are quite adept, especially after your illness, you should be fine. Thank you Lady Quinella. Aine bowed in gratitude, her loyalty to the 4 satanic descendants and Issei Haidu was really something. She was raised in a manner such a manner that she would be loyal to the 4 Satans and their bloodlines, however the loyalty for Issei was due to a different reason. She owed him for giving her a second chance at life, she was happy that she could still remain alive and be with those that would become her friends. She was also loyal to Issei as well, she wanted to repay him one day. Hey, no need for formalities, we are friends after all, right? Ain soon realized this and responded, why yes, I am still getting used to being in the modern world, it has been so long, I am still unfamiliar with what this mobile phone and social media is. Charlotte then asked, we should probably get you some training in that section, but how is your health doing? Ain spoke in response while stretching her limbs, it is doing quite well, Charlotte, I am able to work properly. Say, what is your current thoughts on the current world? Ain took a deep breath and spoke honestly, I am not going to lie, the new world did bring me some confusion. When I first saw Elizabeth and goddess Artemis alongside Issei, I was surprised, but eventually I realized that this is a world where true peace may potentially be achieved, but why do you ask? I wanted to know, do you know who the pillar of the factions is? Valerie asked, to which Ain shook her head in response, no, why? Is he someone important to know? Yes Ain, you see the pillar of the factions is the one that acted as a catalyst for this peace to take place. Ain was surprised by this information, she never knew about this to be taking place, as she spoke with a smile, I wonder if I can meet this pillar of the factions one day. You already have. The four girls thought in unison with a cheerful tone at the thought of her meeting Issei, they were happy that she thinks so highly of the pillar and Issei at the same time, she wondered what her reaction would be if she comes to know the two are the same. Now I think you should rest. The current situation of the world is not that pretty, we will tell you when the time is right. Ain nodded in understanding, as she knew that the four girls and Issei were hiding a secret from her, but she had faith that one day that the truth would come out. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei and Chibi Arcadia. Issei talking about their troubles when drunk, while Chibi Arcadia Juniper and Chibi Nick Sweatdrop. A few days later, the Bureau's territory, 9:30 am. Issei and Kalani were working on the Death Star outer layer. The good thing was that the workshop was big enough to handle the burden of the entire star station. Yes, the Death Star was bigger than what many may see. This was something that Issei wanted, a giant space station that can have enough power to destroy entire dimensions with one beam blast. They even destroy entire planets like it was nothing. Lord Issei, we have done with the inner hull of the Death Star. Kalani spoke with a serious tone, as Issei responded, that is good, we need to still make sure there is enough space. How many people can fit in this longinus? 1 million people, it can be operated manually or using an artificial intelligence to operate it automatically. What do you think, my lord? Issei thought for a moment as he looked at him and responded, artificial intelligence is not something I intended, I want Malakota to pilot the Death Star, she would be using the malibranch to power the laser of the Death Star to destroy it completely. Malakota will be the main pilot, while the rest of the Malakota would use their combined powers to destroy anything that we wish to destroy. I see. Kalani spoke with understanding as he continued to work on the Death Star as Issei looked at him and spoke, I will be taking a walk for a while, until then, you continue to work on this. Kalani nodded, he wanted to meet Sekiruuyetei and Leisha and was wondering what were they thinking now, it has been long after their betrayal at the hands of the devils, maybe he could see what they think of them right now. Scene change. Haidu residence, 11 am. Issei walked into the Haidu residence as he decided to knock on Sekiruuyetei's door as she spoke, yes. Who it? Earlier, he had heard Leisha and Sekiruuyetei having a proper conversation between each other. It is me, are you and Leisha free? Sekiruuyetei recognized the voice as she spoke, yes, Issei, you may come in if you would like. Issei nodded as he walked inside as he saw the two girls having a smile, he could see how much things have changed, he could see Leisha and Sekiruuyetei both wearing nightgowns each, neither girls had worn makeup like they usually did. So Issei, what brings you here? Issei walked towards them and sat beside Sekiruuyetei who was seated on her bed, which Sekiruuyetei did not mind, both the girls did not mind Issei coming close to them at this point. They could see him to be a man they could trust, and they also heard that both Artemis and Athena have fallen for him, and soon enough Murano also has fallen for him, as he asked. How are you two girls feeling? Issei asked with genuine concern in his voice, as he spoke, I wanted to know, what are you girls feeling? Like did your relatives even bother or consider visiting you? No Issei, they unfortunately did not. Only Ryuka visited us, that's it, neither mine nor Leisha's parents showed up to visit us. Especially after you killed Lord Ajuka, no one dared visit your house, after that. They feared you. Mine and Leisha's parents called us to come to Underworld, but I doubt we would be accepted back. You should have tried, giving it a shot. They are your parents after all. Leisha shook her head and responded, no Issei, they may be my parents, but they should have come for me, it only takes what, a small teleportation circle. That's it. But they chose to save their own skin and leave us for you. I wholeheartedly agree with Leisha, Issei. Unlike Hestia who actually took the courage to visit Athena and Artemis, our parents did not choose to visit us. We still hope that one day they can visit us, but it is not possible at this point. Sekiruuyetei spoke with tears falling from her eyes, as Issei spoke while bringing a handkerchief out from his pocket as he spoke. I see, there is nothing that can be done, then again, it would be nice if you wish to talk to someone. I would love that. Sekiruuyetei settled down on Issei's shoulder much to his surprise as she spoke. Thank you Issei, for everything you have done. You had every reason to hate my kind because of what they did to you, but you did not, you assumed me to be my own person, you gave me and Leisha a chance. Leisha soon got up and puts her head on Issei's free shoulder as she spoke. Si-chan is right, and we know that you did not judge or try anything with us even today, they sold us, but you never treated as a commodity, but as a regular person. I can see why goddesses and primordials to fall for someone like you. And we don't mind being with you at this point. Issei looked at the girls and responded, is that a confession? Leisha looked up at Issei as she spoke, you can take your time to respond to us, we will be waiting for your answer, Ice.ca and we call you that. I wouldn't mind. Speaking of which, what do you consider of the situation of the supernatural? Sekiruuyetei looked at Issei and spoke with a frown, they are to blame themselves for their deeds, if anything had they treated you well, I personally doubt that the droid faction would be this threatening at this point. It almost feels like it is inevitable. Sekiruuyetei's words were agreed by Leisha as she spoke, I have to agree, worse my uncle was so blind to fall for the lies of a deceiver, and ready. And he literally sold me to you. Now I'm starting to hate him for what he did to me. I see. So I have one final question to ask you. The two girls looked at him and asked, say, go ahead. Do you still love Sekiruuyetei? Sekiruuyetei or have feelings for him? Issei looked at Leisha and asked, does you have a fiancé, Leisha? No, not at all Issei, we may be close friends, but I never actually had feelings for him, let alone loved him, but after his lack of visit, I doubt we were even that. Sekiruuyetei spoke in a slight sad tone, but her tone also had anger in it, as Leisha added her own words, as for me, I had no fiancé, you were my first fiancé, Ice.and I guess I can be thankful for that. I see. Surely you know of his condition, Sekiruuyetei. Sekiruuyetei nodded as she spoke, yes I do, but I decided to not visit him, why should I visit him when he refused to do so? That is fair. Well, it was nice talking to the two of you, but there is something I would like to tell you guys in a few hours, if you don't mind that is, what do you say? The two girls looked at him and spoke, we don't mind, it is not like there is much we can do here anyway. Issei nodded as he spoke his goodbyes to the girls and left their room, as soon as he did and walked away, he was greeted by a familiar voice. So you have decided to let them know as well? Issei nodded as he looked at the one who asked the question, that was Athena, yes, it is about time, the factions are coming to an end, they need to decide whose side are they on, will they chose the ones who abandoned them, or will they chose me, someone that actually supported me? And the Death Star? Athena spoke as Issei decided to walk a little bit, with Athena trailing behind him, it will be completed soon enough, but before that, we have some things we need to clear up before we can begin the final assault. So who will be our next targets? Athena asked with a serious tone, to which Issei responded with a smile, our next targets will be the Norse mythology. Chapter 35. Preparation for the Norse assault. The Bureau's territory, 9:30 p.m. Issei was witnessing the final creation of the Death Star, as he looked at his masterpiece with a smile, he knew that when it would be ready by the next day, it would be the end of the Norse faction. This would signal the end of the supernatural. The reason was that when the Norse starts to fall, Issei will reveal himself to the supernatural world as a mastermind of everything. He will not hesitate to show what they are capable of and what they can do. Soon enough, Malakota showed up next to Issei alongside Malak and Vader, as they bowed in front of Issei, minus Malak, with Malakota speaking. The Death Star is ready before schedule. My lord. The Malibranch are ready for the final release, when will we begin our first assault, against the Norse gods? Issei looked at her and spoke, in a day or two at most, I would like for our army to prepare for war, till we wipe out the Norse. We have some problems that will come our way. What do you mean, my lord? Malakota asked with concern, as Issei then spoke with a sigh, we have Thor and Vidar to deal with, they are pretty strong from what I hear, with the former being in the top 10 strongest beings. Vader spoke with a bow as he answered in response. My lord, allow me and Grievous to deal with Vidar. Issei looked at him and nodded, as he spoke, I was actually going to ask you to deal with Thor, but I'd like that, Thor is not someone you would want to underestimate. Vader nodded in understanding, as Malak responded. Then I will be the one to deal with that Asgardian. Malak added his own words, with Malakota speaking, then what is it that you ask me and my Malibranch for me to do? Issei walked to her and spoke with a smile, making Malakota wondering what he wanted to do with her. I wish for you to pilot the Death Star, you will be commanding the Super Longinus on your own, with the Malibranch acting as a power source. Malakota widened her eyes with surprise, she was not expecting her lord to honor her with such a power, as Issei kept his hand on her shoulder, catching her off guard, Issei then spoke, I am trusting you with this power, you are the one that will wield the Super Longinus. I hope you won't let me down. Malakota had a red tint on her face, as she looked at him and spoke with a tone full of confidence, I won't let you down, my lord. Issei smiled in response as he puts his hand down, he then spoke, and it is about time we begin the final war against the supernatural, since I am done playing this game of hide and seek and the supernatural were getting on my nerves. Valak narrowed his eyes upon this as he spoke, so it is time, isn't it? Issei looked at him and spoke, indeed, it is about time to tell who is really doing this to begin with. We have remained in the shadows for long enough, and it is time to end this war once and for all. Malak soon gained a smile, he has been waiting for this moment, at least they will reveal ourselves. Well, Malak spoke, I have been waiting for this moment from the day we created this faction. No longer we will stay in the shadows. At last we will reveal ourselves to the rest of the world. Malak added his own words, he has been waiting for this day from the very beginning, it was time for the true mastermind to reveal himself and show the supernatural their place in this world, he knew the time has come, for the end of everything. They have the resources ready to take down the factions, even the Hindu faction if they get in their way. Indeed, now we must prepare, tomorrow and day after tomorrow will be crucial days, they will pave the way for the fall of the supernatural. The others nodded in understanding as they got back to their work, leaving Issei alone with Drake as the Red Dragon Emperor asked, so it is about damn time, right? Indeed, the end of the supernatural has begun, Norse will be the first to fall, and the devils, they will be the last to fall, with Serziches being the last devil to fall, I will kill him personally. Drake nodded in understanding, as he added his own words. You know, I was hoping you to say that, this charade has gone on for long enough, I was actually wondering when you will show them your true self to the factions. Issei nodded in understanding as he spoke, yeah, I was expecting soon enough. Let's just head home, I have another appointment to deal with. Greg nodded in understanding as Issei teleported out of there leaving the others to work on the Death Star. He did promise to reveal the truth to both Sekiruuyetei and Leisha Astareth once he checked on the Death Star. Haidu residence, 10 p.m. Issei was seated in front of Leisha and Sekiruuyetei. The girls remained silent by what he had to speak for them as Leisha spoke with a smile, thus breaking the silence. So Issei, what is it that you wanted to talk about? Issei took a deep breath and asked his first question, I will be honest, what are your thoughts on the droid faction? I am not going to lie in this case, but I am thankful for them. Sekiruuyetei was surprised by this revelation as she muttered in slight disbelief, Leisha. No Si-chan, I am done pretending that I want to be a part of the Astareth family, they never came for me, and neither did your parents did for you, right? Leisha responded coldly as Sekiruuyetei soon lost her surprised look and responded in an equally angered tone, I guess you are right. They chose to leave me here while they stayed in the underworld. As for my thoughts, well I am not sure about the destruction, but in a way, they showed the reality of the supernatural, like. My parents never came to visit me, or even my relatives, they are so driven by their own fear of you, that they chose not to do this, they left me on my own devices. Issei. I am not even sure whether I can hate them at this point, since they never attacked me nor the other girls as well. Issei was surprised by the responses of the two girls, he knew that they held some bad blood towards their own parents, and did not blame them for that, he was angered by how callous the devils were towards their own family. Then again it did not surprise him, right from day one they refused to return a simple demand of Issei, and that was to release Nyx. Had this been done, things may not have gotten this bad, if anything they wouldn't even be in this situation to begin with. Honestly, what would you do if the droid faction wished to bring you in to fight against your own family that abandoned you? The girls were silent when they heard Issei ask them this question, they looked at Issei, and Sekiruuyetei responded. I am not sure, Ice, we may hate and wish to distance from our parents, but I can't be certain whether we can join a faction like that. They have a strong hatred for all supernatural beings and anyone that associates with them like the Pendragon family, they want us eradicated from the surface of the planet, we really don't know why they are doing this or what are their reasons of doing this. Sekiruuyetei sighs as she continues with a sad smile, and besides I doubt they would even tolerate us or even tell us why they hate us. I agree with Si-chan, they have a strong hatred for the supernatural, there is nothing we can do if we want to get on their good side, they will kill us before we can even have a conversation with them. Issei internally chuckled at this, they don't even know the one they are talking to is the de facto leader of the droid faction, he decided to reveal the truth to them anyway. Well, ladies, what if I told you that the leader of the droid faction is standing right beside you? The girls were wide-eyed by this revelation, unable to believe what was in front of them. The mastermind behind every attack on the factions and the cause for their desperation was standing right in front of their eyes. What's worse, he has been living amongst them for so long that no one actually knew what was going to happen. Not only that, they understood why he refused to help the factions despite them literally begging and goading him for his aid. They even had the bright idea to make sure that they used the girls to keep Issei on their leash, and that ended as well as they expected it to be. So all this time, you are the one that has been masterminding and leading all the attacks that were breaking and damaging the factions. It was you? Leisha croaked in disbelief, unable to comprehend that her fiancé and crush were so destructive in nature. Sekvera was equally sad and devastated by this, although she could not blame Issei for his hatred towards the factions. Yes, I was the one behind everything, every single attack Malak performed I was the one pulling the strings from behind, I was the one that destroyed Grigori, Heaven, East and West territories of the Yaokai, and it is about time to end this war once and for all. I am done tolerating these supernatural beings trying to control humanity, thinking that they have complete dominance over them just because they were born as gods or devils or something else. Their treatment of me was the reason why I made the droid faction, but when I saw humanity being treated similarly to how I was, that was the day when I saw the supernatural was losing its way. But eventually, they never learned, they never changed, I gave them so many chances, but they never changed their ways. The girls were silent, they knew what Issei was trying to say, he knew things that they potentially don't. They knew the supernatural factions are too far gone, innocence or no innocence, they all were guilty for making Issei's life miserable because of them believing the wrong people. Worse, they constantly thought that I would forgive and forget what they did to me, they entered my home and invaded my privacy many times, without caring for what they thought, they never loved me to begin with, and the only reason they were nice towards me was because they feared what I will do to them. They feared my power and my capabilities, that is why they wanted me to get on their good side, which they clearly failed. Issei shook his head as he continued, honestly, this all went this far because these so-called gods assume that the world revolves around them, they think that all mortals are beneath them, and this is what caused this problem to begin with, and had they released Nyx with no strings attached, we wouldn't even be in this situation. Their actions were the catalyst for the situation to be reaching this far. The girls were trying to process the information that Issei had spoken to them, things were really hopeless for the supernatural factions as what Issei went through, it was only a fraction of what the girls that were sold to him went through. I see. Sekvera spoke after a deep thought, she couldn't blame or judge Issei's hatred towards the supernatural factions in any way, nor she could see why Issei should stop his crusade against them. She took a deep breath and spoke, I will make my choice right now. I am not supporting the factions in any way, no matter what happens. Issei nodded in understanding as he soon asked, so would you join the droid faction? The war is coming to a close at this point, the fall of the supernatural is inevitable. I am in, Issei, my parents don't even want to visit or calm me down, they never did, they only called me asking me once or twice to return, but why should I if they can't even visit me here, especially when you meant no harm, as long as they only wanted to visit. Sekvera spoke remembering Hestia, as Issei understood what she meant, as she took a deep breath and continued while keeping her hand on her chest. I would love to stay by your side and fight for you, and the factions. I am in for this war. Leisha also responded once Sekvera was done as she spoke with a genuine smile, you took care of me when my own uncle attacked out of spite, you showed genuine worry for me. Leisha spoke with a sad sigh, they even wanted me away when it was not even my own fault for my uncle's demise. She soon looked at Issei and spoke to him dead in the eye as she responded, that is why, I also want to join you Issei, I have no one that cares for me. They let their fear guide their actions. And even overrides their own love for me. That is why I want to show them, if they can't love me, they have no right to call me family. Issei took a moment to look at the two girls as he responded with a smile, it seems like even you two finally decided to join. The girls were surprised by the information as she asked, what do you mean by, you two? You were the last to join us from the girls that had come to this house, thanks to the faction selling you to me. The girls understood this, realizing what he had just spoken to them, that means. Yes, Elizabeth, Marana, Artemis, Athena, they all have joined me a long time ago, now you two have also joined. The girls were surprised by this, it seemed inevitable for them to join Issei, it was no secret that they all fell for Issei, with Athena, Artemis and Elizabeth being well known at this point, Marana was still somewhere in the middle, but she was having budding feelings for Issei. Even the two Mocha sisters loved him no matter what happens. I see. So, what should we do? The two girls were content on being fully accepted as Issei commanded for now, you two should rest for now, tomorrow is going to be a big day after all, you all will witness the fall of one of the factions firsthand. The girls nodded in understanding in this, as they knew the final war is just beginning. Scene change. Athena was walking around the Highschool residence, she was looking for her sister Artemis, as she knew that the next day was going to be very important, she needed to have a small talk with her. She had reached Artemis's room as she knocked on it and asked, Artie, you there? Athena waited for a moment, as she heard some weird noises, she became worried when she heard the noises to be that of vomiting. She did not hesitate to rush inside as she saw Artemis in the bathroom puking on the sink. Athena did not hesitate to rush towards the bathroom, as she rubbed her back calming her down, she then spoke, it's okay, it's okay. Artemis stopped puking and cleaned her face soon after that, she even cleaned the basin, as she looked at Athena and spoke with a tone of surprise, Athena. Easy Artie, come sit on the bed. And don't put pressure on yourself. Artemis nodded as Athena helped her settle down on the bed. She had a worried look on her face as she spoke. Artemis, us goddesses don't get sick so easily, especially like this, so why were you puking on the sink just right now? Artemis was quiet. She did not know why she was puking. Additionally, just these last 2 days her body has been acting really weird as she spoke to Athena. I don't know. Artie, please tell me what is going on in the past few days. If you won't tell me, then how can I help? Athena spoke with an assuring tone. I don't know Athena, just a day or two ago, I have been having some food cravings, and I keep puking on the sink often then not constantly, I just don't know sister. Athena thought for a moment. There were only a few possibilities as she noted for a while. The first thing that could come to her mind was morning sickness. As she spoke, Artie, you should head to the doctor, maybe he could understand what is your reasoning and your sudden changes in your behavior. Artemis looked at her and nodded. She then spoke, so who should I go to? Usually I head to my brother if I ever get ill, but I am not sure who should I go to. Maybe you are right, but if you'd ask me and if I were in your position, I would not only head to the doctor, but also tell Issei about my situation. Artemis stopped her and spoke, no, not now, Issei is very busy, and I don't think it would be wise to disturb him. At least not yet. Artemis spoke while looking away as Athena looked at her and understood what she was thinking, but despite this she spoke, I believe you should tell him about this, he cares for you a lot, and I don't think it is wise to leave him in the dark, especially on an important matter like this. But I am not going to force anything upon you, it is your choice to do it. I know Athena, but I don't want to bother him and trouble him now. Once the speech is done, I will let him know of my situation, okay? Artemis's words made Athena nod in understanding. They soon left the room to head to the nearest doctor for their situation. They knew that they will have to make it quick since Issei will be making the attack soon enough. Scene change. Time skip brought to you by Chibi. Artemis trying to drink Issei's Diet Coke from his stash, while Chibi Athena and Chibi Issei desperately try to stop her. The next day, the droid faction base, 6:30 p.m. Issei was standing in front of the newly completed Death Star, which was transported back to the base due to it posing a risk of being noticed by the devils if it were to be ever released. He did not want to deal with any unconventional problems, as he knew the last two Satans will be annoying to deal with. He was joined by both Moka Amuk, Elizabeth and Marana, as Marana spoke, so this is the Death Star, the super longinus that took days to make. Using every single knowledge you possessed. Indeed, Marana, this is the same Death Star. This is the Super Longinus. Not only does it have destructive capabilities, it can also create spaceships like Hyena bombers, Vulture droids, along with several more ships. Additionally, it also has several abilities which will be seen during the destruction of the Norse pantheon. Issei turned to Moka and asked to her, how are the vampires? Simple, they don't even know that we are watching them. Elmenhold is trying her best to calm things, along with Lord Teeps and Lady Carmilla, but soon enough, they will lose complete faith in them. Moka spoke, as Issei responded with a smile while rubbing her head, good job, Yura. Moka blushed as Moka Amuk spoke, hey, what about me? Issei looked at her and sighed, he then smiled at her as well and spoke, you too Amuk, you too. Thank you, things would not have ended up this well and smooth if it was not your actions. The girls nodded with a smile, as Marana looked at the scene with a slight pout on her face, however she soon removed it and responded, so what is the next plan, like you have already made the weapon? Issei looked at Marana and spoke, it is time we begin the final fall of the factions. Marana, are Gabriel and Elizabeth ready with their roles? They are, the armies and the ships have all been ready, we are ready for battle against the Asgardians, and the Asgardian armada, all we need is your command. Issei looked at her and nodded, he then asked another question, is Nyx, Quinella and the others ready for their part? This is going to be the part of the fight that they will never forget. Yes, we are all waiting for you, all we need is for your input, I hope you are ready for your speech. Issei looked at her and nodded. The trio then soon left as they were greeted by his generals, that being Kalani, Vader, Malak and Grievous, with Malak speaking. So are you ready for the finale? Issei looked at Malak and spoke, indeed, I have been waiting for this moment for the past 2 years, ever since I made the promise of freeing Nyx, to dealing with the factions once and for all. Today is the day, we will achieve true peace. Indeed, the girls and Hades and Persephone along with their daughters are waiting for you. Issei was surprised by what Vader had told him, he never thought they will appear, as he spoke, why are they here? Like, I thought they would. They were persistent, and I did not have the heart to deny them. Malak spoke with a sigh as Issei seemed a bit worried, as he then spoke with a sigh, fine, I will go greet them. Issei decided to head inside, where was ambushed by a hug aimed towards him as someone exclaimed with happiness, Ice-chan I missed you. Issei turned around to see his adopted family present, as Issei sees the one that hugged him, this was Persephone, as she remained like this for a moment, as Issei returned the hug, I missed you too, Persephone. Soon enough the rest of the family joined in, this included Hades and Persephone's daughters, that being Macaria and Melano showing up. Macaria was described to be a fair-skinned beautiful lady with a flower on her head, and she wore a blue-colored gown with a purple stomach plate and 2 bracelets which were purple in color. Macaria's hair was also wavy and smooth. Melano, on the other hand, was described to be tan-skinned lady whose hair was curly, unlike her sister's. She wore a similar clothing, except hers was red, and she wore her blue bracelets near her upper arm. "So girls, how was your college?" Melano spoke with a sigh. "Aside from confessions literally annoying us, there is nothing that was a problem, it went smooth. Yeah, those boys did have genuine feelings for us, but they were mostly short-lived, plus, I am not sure if they will live as long as we do." Macaria added with a response. Issei shook his head. He knew of the girls having problems with them dating boys. As Issei spoke with her, "You should probably give them a chance, you never know, out of all those fishes, there may be a pearl amongst them." Issei is a bit right, but there is no way that your future boyfriend is getting an approval without getting through me. Hades spoke in an overprotective father persona. As Persephone gave a sweat drop, she can judge people by their looks, regardless. Even she wanted to give her daughters the best lover, since given what happened to Issei. Neither Persephone nor Hades want what happened to Issei happen to their daughters. His suffering from heartbreak was something they did not want for their daughters as well. "Anyways, I should be getting ready, they are waiting." Persephone soon released him from her hug as Issei walked forward with the rest of his allies. Persephone and her family they watched the speech that Issei would be making. The stage was set, as there was a microphone at the center. He looked at the droids and those that sided with him, whether it be those the sleeper agents, as well as the sleeper agents that were converted into vessels for the malibranch. Additionally, his generals and Nyx along with Hades and his family were standing on the stage. This also included Artemis, Athena, Quinella, Charlotte, Miyuki, Elizabeth, Gabriel, Mokaura, Mocha Amuk, Marana, Ingvald, Valerie, Gondel, Lafolia and her family, Malakota, Sakara and Laisha. They all were looking towards Issei, who started to make his speech, a speech that would be remembered. Issei spoke with a deep breath and made his speech. "Today is the day that marks the beginning of the final war against the factions, fight against several regimes that leads to nothing but disorder. But this very moment, hidden from the rest of the world, the supernatural factions lies to the world, while secretly supporting injustices against humanity and many other innocent races. This fierce machine which we have built, something that is right above us, the Death Star, is teleported inside the room atop of the army. This will bring an end to the faction leaders and beings that perform injustices and crimes against humanity. They will no longer use humanity which they manipulate to forward their own goals of selfishness. But not anymore, no longer shall this happen, not anymore, cause the day our final war against the supernatural factions has begun. All remaining factions will fall to the droid faction and will remember this as the war that ended the supernatural tyranny upon humanity and other races." The army raised their hands and cheered for Issei. "All hail the supreme leader, all hail." The only ones that did not were the ones on the stage near Issei, all of whom had smiles on their face. Tonight was the day the factions will start to fall. Everything that the supernatural has built on humanity through their manipulation will end. Issei left the area as Nyx came towards Issei and spoke with a smile. "That was an amazing speech, Ice." Soon after, the rest of the people had also come towards Issei as he looked at them and responded. "Let's get ready and prepare the Death Star. Malakota, take your malibranch and get to the Death Star." Malakota nodded as she spoke while teleporting. "As you wish, my lord." Malakota teleported away from the location with her malibranch hosts. As they were inside the Death Star, they started to prepare the Death Star. Issei then commanded her. "Malakota, head to Asgard and keep a significant distance from them so that they don't find you." Malakota responded in an affirmative tone. "Indeed, my lord." "Now then, let's get ready for war against Asgard, it is time." The rest of the group nodded. He looked at Hades and Persephone and responded, "Are you too sure of fighting for me? Like I don't want to get you and your family involved in this mess. We are God's eyes, and besides, Odin needs to pay on how he treated you. There is no way we are going to let this slide. We will help you in whatever way we can." Hades spoke for his family as he responded, "I would say to prepare for the war, leave the fighting to us, and when we deal with the underworld, we are going to need every force we have to deal with them, since we are going to deal with them in the very end. Until then, enjoy the show." Issei spoke with a smile as Hades nodded in understanding, with Persephone speaking, "Leave it to us, Ice-chan, make sure to give that old hypocrite hell for what he has done." Hades and his family soon teleported out of there to prepare for the final war. Issei then turns his attention to Artemis and Athena and spoke, "Your goal is to set up the different televisions in the different locations around the supernatural world." Artemis and Athena nodded in agreement as Issei continued. "Additionally, Athena, you must look after my parents. Upon my signal, capture them and teleport them to me. I have a personal score to settle with them as well." Athena nodded in understanding as she spoke, "Leave it to me, Issei." Athena and Artemis teleported out of there as he looked at the rest of the girls. Your job is to destroy the Norse gods. You will be assisted by the droids and the ships, so you need not worry. We will be revealing ourselves anyway, so you need not worry. You can teleport out of there to the Death Star or the base if you run out of magic. I want all of you to survive this war. I could care less for the sleeper agents, but I want you all to live another day, please. To me, and I don't want to lose any of you. Many of the girls had a red tint on their faces as Quinella spoke for them. You needn't worry for us, we will survive this war, we will make it out of it, and we will survive, that is our promise to you. Issei then turned to Malak and the rest of his generals. Let us begin. What do the Norse fear the most? Oh yeah, let Ragnarok commence and the Norse fall tonight. Indeed, Malak spoke for the rest of the generals as he was about to teleport directly to the location where Odin was, but just before he was about to teleport, someone called out to him, Lord Issei. Issei looks at Gondal and remembers something he promised her as he speaks, come with me, Gondal, you and I will be fighting against Odin. Gondal beamed at this as she spoke with a smile, yes, thank you Lord Issei. Scene change. Odin's chamber, Asgard, 8 p.m. Odin was ready to head for the meeting. He was accompanied by Thor and Vidar, who was described to be a tall, handsome man who appears to be Northern European and in his early 20s. He has white golden hair, golden eyes, and a beard. He wears a fitting white suit. Vidar looked at his father and asked, Father, are you sure of this? Vidar asked with a tone of surprise. He was not expecting Odin to accept another meeting by the factions. They needed to discuss on what needs to be done and how they can counter the droid faction. He knew at this point it was pointless and inevitable as to what was going on. He looked at Odin, who responded with a sigh. Yes, we need to plan without Haidu at this point. That lad has nothing but hatred for all of us, so there is no other choice we have. You are right about that one. Odin, the voice was familiar to the rest of the gods present. They all were on guard once they heard Malak alongside Grievous and Vader beside them. Despite this, the portal was still open. After all, the main guests were yet to show up. Odin spoke with anger in his voice. What do you want, Malak? Haven't you done enough damage to us? Just look around at what you have done. People are afraid of you. People are weary of you. They can't get sleep knowing that they would be under attack one day. Malak looked at them apathetically as Odin continued. Children cry and live in fear. They fear what your factions has done. Look around, have you not done enough? Malak only looked at the All-Father and spoke coldly. So? Your point? Odin was about to speak as Malak responded before he could. Why should I care for your children? Why should I care for your people? I told you my reasons of destroying the factions months ago, during the party, but regardless, I am put on deaf ears. Regardless, I am not here for that. I am here to bring out the end of the Norse faction. Malak ended with a gleeful smile as they all got angry and were ready to fight back. But before that, is everything set up, Vader? Vader walked closer and muttered, yes, she has given the confirmation, the stage has already been set. What is it you are talking about? And Vader cuts his father off by interrupting, All-Father. Vidar, I don't think now is the time to. Odin is again cut off by Malak as he spoke. He has some news, listen to your son, All-Father. Vidar then continued, there have been televisions set up in the different locations of the factions. Huge screens have suddenly appeared all across the supernatural world. They have the insignia of the droid factions and have been recording what is happening, and they are able to see everything. Vidar's words made Odin wide eyes as Malak snapped his fingers, generating a barrier surrounding Asgard and the Death Star so that no one enters inside. Odin then asked angrily, what is the meaning of this, Malak? Malak only laughed at the All-Father's words as he spoke, let the show begin. Malak looked behind as he spoke, you can come out. Supreme Leader. The trio of Norse gods were surprised by this as two people soon stepped outside the portal. The Norse gods were in complete disbelief as Odin spoke with a tone full of horror. They were none other than Issei Haidu and the former Valkyrie of Asgard, Gondal. Haidu.and. Gondal. The two nodded in agreement as Issei spoke for the two, hello all Booker, it's been a while, hasn't it? Odin was stunned at this revelation as Vidar muttered with horror, that means that everything was. You're doing. Exactly, Vidar, you are smart for a god of vengeance. Issei looked at Vidar as he continued, Malak was only the face of the droid faction, but in reality he was my second in command, or more accurately my right-hand man. He was more of my brother than Dai really was. I was pulling the strings this whole time, and in reality I was the mastermind behind everything. Every attack, every death, every damage done by the droid faction, I am the one that had a hand behind it. I was the one that started and was the one that was leading this faction from the shadows. Everything was done by yours truly, the Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Haidu. Odin and the other two Norse gods were stunned and horrified by this revelation. This meant one thing, they were doomed right from the start. Issei was their enemy from the very first day. This could only mean one thing, but they will not go down without a fight. The first was the thunderer Thor, who was glowing with electricity as he dashed towards Issei with the intent to kill, shouting with fury, "Haidu." However, before Thor could land a hit, he was sent flying by Malak as he spoke, "I will be your opponent, god of thunder." Vidar tried to assist Thor, but he was stopped by Grievous and Vader, who spoke for the two. "You will be dealing with us, god of vengeance." Vader and Grievous pushed Vidar to a separate location, while Malak did the same with Thor, leaving Issei, Gondal and Odin alone. Odin glared at Gondal and spoke angrily. "I never thought you would fall this low, Gondal. What would your children and granddaughter Roswas think of you? Don't you have any shame or regret of what you have done?" Gondal got angry at Odin's words. She had already seen his true colors. As Issei spoke, "You should be the one to regret, you left her to die when she chose to actually do something right, even if it was against you. For someone that seeks more knowledge, you should have seen this coming. You left her in such a state, yet you show no shame, you disgust me in every way, all bucker." Odin gritted his teeth in anger, while Gondal had a real blush on her face. She couldn't forget how much Issei has done for her. Despite being enslaved, she still cared for him, as Gondal spoke with equal anger. "I served you for so long, for years, if not centuries. No, I served you for more than that, and you abandoned me without a second thought. Issei was right about you, you aren't worth keeping alive at this point, you really are pathetic, all bucker." Gondal spoke angrily as Odin became even more angry. He looked at her and spoke, "You." Issei looked at him dead in the eye and spoke, "No point in telling this god, if he abandoned you without a second thought, then there is nothing that can be done, let's end this once and for all, Gondal." Gondal looked at him and nodded. She glared at Odin as the duo got ready to fight the All-Father, who was ready to defend himself, no matter the cost. There was only one thing that was going to happen, and that was the final war of the droid faction against the faction leaders. Chapter 36. Ragnarok, Underworld, 9 p.m. The whole Underworld was in chaos after the big reveal that Issei was working with them. Panic, fear and chaos ensured everywhere. The people were afraid that Issei would come after them next for vengeance. They tried to run or escape, but there was nothing they could do but watch. They could watch as another faction falls by Issei's hand, or more accurately him and his droid faction's hands. The leaders watched in horror and disbelief, seeing Gondal working for the droid faction, with Issei leading the faction. What's worse is that they are actively hunting down the factions. The reactions amongst the leaders were varied to say the least. Shiva and Indra were horrified and distressed by this revelation. They knew Issei hated the factions, but they never knew he wanted to wipe them out. They never outright hated the boy like many of the other leaders had done, but now, they were worried that Issei may come for next. The two gods looked at each other and knew what they must do next. They knew that Issei is someone even they can't beat, but they had to find a way such that their faction survives this. However, their thoughts were not shared with the other leaders. Both Michael and Azazel looked at Issei with hatred. He manipulated them and is the reason why they are suffering, why their factions are nothing but rubble. They hated him even more, especially Michael, who witnessed his entire faction being wiped out to dust. They hated him for his actions. Azazel, on the other hand, detested him for what Issei had done. He is the reason why they have been suffering so far, and his actions have been the result of what happened. However, they only got themselves to blame for enabling die and falling for their lies. Elmenhold felt fear for what was happening. She was terrified of what was going to happen when Issei comes for her next. She already was in distress when the vampires were under siege during the Chaos Brigade's assaults. She had done something to Issei's two only friends that would continue to haunt her since she saw them in Issei's house, meaning Issei already knew the truth of this happening. However, there was one that was beyond livid with this reveal, and that was Serzich's Lucifer. He hated that Issei was the one responsible for all the miseries he and his family along with his faction have been facing. The former Grimoire heir hated Issei ever since he killed Ajuka in cold blood all those days ago at the end of the party that had happened, and he has been making their lives miserable due to him not helping them. Worse, he detested Issei's nature and attitude from the very beginning, ever since he met them the first time months ago at the conference where he had demanded the release of Nyx. Which did not change much because of his now newly generated nature and coldness towards them. He gritted his teeth knowing what he had to do next. He knew that there was only one way to kill Issei at this point, and that was to use Samuel's poison. Like Serzich's, Zeus was also beyond furious. He, like Serzich's, hated Issei, but unlike Serzich's, he detested Issei from the very first day. His both daughters turned on him completely, with Athena outright stating that she will be with Issei, and neither he or his faction can separate them at this point. He will make Issei pay, no matter what happens, and he knew who can help him in this. He will have to contact his brother Hades for this. As for the Shinto gods and Magari, they were livid by this level of betrayal. Worse, it was coming from one of their homeland. They hated Issei even more, with Magari vowing to destroy Issei at all costs for being the reason why the Nekashu sisters had gone missing, along with his actions against the West and East Yaokai factions. Kunu was devastated by this level of betrayal. She knew Issei was the one that was responsible for her mother's disappearance. Additionally, she knew that she was not killed but was taken by them. That means she was his prisoner for months. Haraham calmed Kunu down while glaring at Issei with anger and hatred. We need to get to Odin as soon as possible to stop Issei's madness against them. Surziches spoke angrily as Greyfear responded, we can't. What do you mean we can't? Surziches asked with anger, as Greyfear responded, Malak has generated a magic barrier that disables teleportation, for now we can only watch. Damn him, Surziches cursed angrily towards Issei and Malak. They had planned this from day one, as Shiva looked at Surziches' anger as he responded, for now, we need to find a way to breach the barrier, there is no point in getting angry. I have to agree with Shiva, we need to find a way to breach the barrier that the droid faction has split up. Azazel spoke with a sigh, while Shiva was seeing how different Surziches was, as he knew that he was going to do something bad, while letting his emotions be the one to decide things. The others that were present were fearful of what is happening, especially those that actively tormented Issei, that being Riaz and those of her peerage that actually remained, Sona and her peerage minus Yanshiro, and finally the other peerages. Bull Team /Dog were furious that Issei was the one that hurt both Tobio and Lavinia, they wanted to make him pay, which was especially true for Suzaku, she hated Issei with all her might. However, they were fearful on what Issei plans to do with all of them, they had to find a way to defeat them. For now they can only watch in horror, as another faction falls today. Asgard, 8 p.m. Odin looked at Gondal, the treacherous Valkyrie that abandoned him and the Red Dragon Emperor, the chances of him beating Issei were very slim, but he was not going to go down without a fight. Thunder Odin spoke with a commanding tone, as a water-like dragon surrounds him, and he brings out the spear as he pointed towards them. He looked at his two opponents, as he spoke, come at me, boy. Gondal, remember the promise you made towards me, when I first brought you in. Gondal looked at him and remembered, she can transform herself into a weapon, as she spoke, I can transform into the exosuit you wanted me to do so, although. Gondal wondered whether Issei would accept it, as he spoke, do it, Gondal. I trust you. Yes, I shall. Gondal responded happily as he body glowed. She transformed into an exosuit which was covered on Issei's body, as Issei used his boosted gear, with Dragon Gondal announcing. Balance breaker alternative. Super automaton superscript 2. Issei's armor changed significantly, instead of being crimson, it turned into a mechanical golden and blue armor. This was an armor designed by Issei with the help of Gondal and Malak. Issei summoned the Mortis blade in his right hand, as the blade emanated with god-slaying magic, as he then spoke with a grin while his helmet comes down on his face, let's go, all bucker. Issei's armor glowed with blue color light as Odin got into his stance, he dashed towards Issei, aiming his staff at his heart, intending to finish the fight as soon as possible. Issei was able to block his strike with ease as he spoke with a cackle, predictable. Odin was sent flying by energy blast from the suit, which was followed up with Issei dashing headfirst into the Norse god of knowledge, Odin, who tried his best to analyze Issei's new balance breaker. He could sense it seemed to have the power of the Welsh dragon, along with Gondal's own power, that being delved in Norse mythology, it could use all forms of Norse magic that Gondal knew about. Then he scanned the blade as he blocked Issei's strike with his own staff. He sensed that the blade had immense supernatural slaying magic, which meant he could use this blade for anyone that he fought against, and he could kill them. If this blade managed to land a hit on him, he had to be careful. All in all, he had to applaud Issei for his intuition and initiative. He managed to plan and prepare the attacks for days, if not weeks. Issei is fighting against him, using everything that can either harm or kill Odin. Odin barely evaded a swing aimed at his throat, and in response, he generated several magical circles of Norse origin, depicting elemental magic. He knew this to be enough, as he responded, let's end this, traitor. Whatever you say, all bucker. Issei responded as the elemental magic was aimed at Issei, as he jumped in the air, to avoid the strikes, as he responded with two missile-like punches towards Odin, with him shouting. Plasma twin punches. Issei sent two flying fists aimed at Odin, which was faster than a regular punch, as it was aimed straight to Odin's gut as he coughed up blood. The speed of Issei was really something. Odin gritted his teeth in pain knowing the damage he had caused. Odin was pushed behind as he responded with some more magic circles that aimed Norse magic at Issei. He is using homing magic spells. Gondal warned Issei, as he used plasma generator shield to block the attacks. He easily dispelled them as Odin dashed towards him with his staff aiming at his stomach this time. For old god, he was definitely fast, very fast. Odin slammed his spear straight into Issei's gut, who was able to block it using his mortis blade. The blade's corrosive nature against gods made Odin back away in fear. He knew if he even get stabbed by the blade, it would end his life immediately. Odin slammed his staff into the ground, as several magic circles appeared underneath Issei. He was then warned by Gondal. This is curse magic, one of the more advanced Norse magic, be careful. Ise. Issei nodded as he responded by using more boosts, increasing his speed significantly. The magic circles erupted as soon as he came into close contact with Odin, but Issei was able to narrowly escape the curse magic and land a blow to Odin's face. He then exclaimed. Plasma punch barrage. Issei followed up with a rapid-fire series of punches aimed at Odin's cheeks as he continued to dish out blow after blow aimed at his cheeks as well. The punches were further enhanced by Gondal's own power and Drake's boosts, making Odin struggle as he could not comprehend what was going on with him. He tried to recover, but was unable to do so. He had only one option. Enough, Odin shouted, releasing a tremendous amount of aura as he glared at Issei. His expression was already livid and he had taken several punches from Issei's attack. Issei looked at him and responded, "So you are taking this seriously, huh?" Issei recognized the aura coming out from Odin as he noted this was limit break as he knew that Odin's natural strength has increased significantly as he could see this. Odin roared in anger as he slammed his staff towards Issei, who effortlessly blocked it with the mortis blade. He slashed his upper chest, making him grit his teeth in pain. Odin could feel a dark-colored aura emanating from the cut he had given the Norse chief god. "What is this? God-slaying magic?" Odin spoke with disbelief, looking at his wound. Normally this type of wound would not hurt him that much, but this wound seemed to be different as Issei spoke. "Indeed, since you decided to not hold back, then I shall also do the same." Issei generated plasma from his hands and soon enough there was a cage that was formed surrounding himself and Odin. The cage crackled with pure electricity as Odin looked around the cage, surprised by the trap Issei has put both himself and Odin in. This was Gematria's own, also called the prison of the gods. He assumed that the cage was regular electricity. However, once the electricity was touched by his body, he screamed in pain. Issei shook his head and responded, "Idiot." Odin did not use his eye to identify the cage surrounding him. Had he done so, he would have figured it out that it was God-slaying lightning from the infamous lightning-slaying gloves. These gloves were an added feature to the super automaton superscript 2 Gondal, and Drake also frowned at this level of foolishness from the all-father of the Norse gods. He is going to lose big time if he keeps looking down on Issei. Drake added his own words, "I could not agree anymore." Issei was quick and elusive. He knew Odin was not as strong as Thor since he was not at his prime, but he was one of the strongest Norse gods out there. He blitzed through Odin and before he could recover from the previous attack, Issei slammed him in the gut, making him cough up blood. "So tell me all Booker, how does it feel? How does it feel to be looked down upon by a man that you once looked down upon?" Odin coughed up blood as Odin kicked him in the chin, almost cracking his chin. He looked at Odin with hatred for what he had done. Despite of his vast knowledge of everything, he failed to see Dai's deception. "Tell me all Booker, how do you feel by what happened?" Issei followed up with another kick to his stomach as he coughed up even more blood. He commanded the cage to unleash more god-slaying lightning at him, making him scream in pain. Odin's screams were heard throughout Asgard as the warriors on Asgard's side looked in horror of what is happening. Even Thor and Vidar had stopped their battles in the middle, but they were forced to continue because of their enemies being relentless in their battles. Issei, out of anger and sheer spite, kept doing this over and over again, making Odin scream every time in pain due to this. He continued this for a long time until Odin was on the ground. He had dropped his staff and looked at Issei in pure fear as Issei only muttered, "It's over." Gondal spoke as Issei responded, "Indeed." Issei's body glowed and his balance breaker returned to his normal red armor. Gondal looked at Odin coldly and with hatred for how she was treated thanks to the All-Father's abandoning of her. Odin looked down in guilt for what he had done to her, while Issei had no sympathy for the Norse chief god. Scene change with Malak. Malak was facing off against Thor as he blocked another Mjolnir strike from him using his red blade. It was too easy for the right-hand man of the droid faction. Thor angrily looked at Malak as he saw that he was unable to do any damage to Malak, who could only grin in satisfaction. "Do you have any idea how many innocent lives Issei and his faction have taken?" Thor exclaimed with anger in his voice as Malak responded with a cackle, "I know, Thor, but the better question is that should I care?" Malak's tone was mocking, which angered the Norse god even more. Generating thunder in his palms, he unleashed it onto Malak, who blocked it with ease. Thor couldn't keep up with Malak even if he wanted to. Malak was on a different level as he was able to keep up with even the likes of Shiva with ease, so Thor was nothing but an ant to him. Despite this, he will not go down without a fight. Thor twirled his hammer multiple times to create a thundercloud as he commanded it to aim on Malak, who easily dodged the flames with relative ease. Malak was a clone of Issei, so he has some extent of his powers and abilities, making him on par with even some of the toughest beings in this world. Malak then spoke while raising his hands, "I am getting really bored." Malak raised his hands as he started to pull Mjolnir towards him. Thor was surprised and angered by this as he tried to pull it back. "You dare defy a god?" Malak gives a mocking grin to the Thunderer as he managed to overwhelm Thor's pull using his telekinesis and pulls it towards him. Malak held the hammer and twirled it with ease. He was worthy of wielding Mjolnir just like Thor was. "This is impossible. How can someone like you wield Mjolnir? The only ones that did were that traitor and myself. As well as some of my other Norse gods." Thor spoke with utter disbelief as Malak only cackled in response as he spoke. "You gave the answer to your own question." Malak's words made Thor think for a moment before going wide-eyed. The one who was standing was the same person as Issei. Thor had fear in his eyes as Malak flung the hammer towards him, sending him flying. Thor tried his best to regain control, but was unable to. Malak was not going to allow him to regain control that easily. He regained the hammer as he slammed him, constantly smacking him on the face over and over and over again. Blood splattered from his mouth as his teeth were constantly being loosened and eventually broken by every smack. Thor generated electricity and thunder to push Malak back, but he was unable to be affected as he used his own telekinesis to pull the lightning towards him, using his own weapon against him. He followed up with a hammer aimed to his chest, making him cough up blood. Malak summoned lightning and released onto the ground, creating tremors. As Thor started to stagger due to the immense pressure, Malak pulled Thor towards him, and with his free hand, he stabbed Thor in the heart with his light blade. No way. Thor looked at the blade aimed at his chest. He coughed up blood as he could feel blood falling from his wound. Malak pulled it, and Thor was slumping on the ground. He coughed up even more blood as he looked at his wound. His heart was damaged. Malak had damaged his heart. He spoke weakly. Why do all of this? Is it not obvious? You are one of the few that still look down upon and manipulate my race for your own selfish goals, the Midgardians being one of them. Despite what humanity has done for your kind, you fail to respect or even care for them, as long as one has use for you. You abused my brother figure for so long until he terrorized you or you wanted his help, and the worst part is, neither of you ever learn, no matter how much we tell you. Malak spoke angrily as he continued, then we have Zeus, who just didn't want to release Nyx until Issei literally induced fear in his heart and did it himself. If anyone is to blame for your actions, it is you gods that are to blame for your own undoing. Thor soon kneeled as he accepted his fate. He wanted to make amends, but it was sadly too late. Goodbye, Thunderer. Malak raised his blade and decapitated him as his head fell on the ground. Malak looked at Thor coldly and shook his head in disappointment. Their time for death has come. Malak soon teleported back to Issei. Knowing that his time had come, he decided to take Mjolnir with him as a trophy for his success. He was pondering whether Issei would let him keep it or not. Scene change. Vader was on his last breath. The two combined forces of Grievous and Vader were too damning, even for the likes of a god of vengeance. Well, would you look at that, Grievous, it seems like even with one of us alone, we'd still able to beat this god. Vader spoke with a mocking tone as Grievous spoke. Indeed, it seems like the Norse is at its end. It's time to put this vengeance god 6 feet under. Vader gritted his teeth in anger as he was about to shout, you damned. Vader was unable to complete as Vader used telekinesis to choke Vader, making him struggle as he was unable to speak. Vader soon crushed his windpipe as he struggled to even breathe, and before he could react, Grievous decapitated Vader with his 4 blades, effectively killing another god. Well, there is nothing we can do here now. Vader spoke while kicking his corpse. He showed absolute disdain as Grievous spoke, let's head back. I am pretty sure Supreme Leader and Gondal must have done with Odin. The duo teleported back to Issei knowing that the battle is over. Scene change. Issei and Gondal heard a teleportation sound. Seeing 2 teleportation circles turned around to see Malak, Grievous and Vader soon show up as he looked at them and spoke, I take it that they are dead. Odin looked at the scene in surprise and shock. He had the mortis blade stabbed in his stomach. This was done by Issei earlier to make Odin's death excruciating. Indeed, they stood no chance against our combined might. Malak spoke as he was looking at Mjolnir and was planning to give it to Issei, but he shook his head and spoke, keep it, it's yours. Thank you. Malak spoke with a tone of gratitude as Odin looked in horror. His faction was coming to an end as Issei stabbed him with a god-slaying mortis blade, causing him to shout in pain. Issei turned to Gondal and spoke, would you like to do the honors? Gondal walked forward and responded, it would be my pleasure. Gondal generated several magic circles as she looked at Odin with utter disdain as she spoke. All these years, I served you without distinction. Even when Issei-sama took me as a sleeper agent, I still hoped you would see through me and find a way to help me and possibly Issei. But you did not. You abandoned me for a very foolish reason. And now, this is your punishment. Gondal yelled with hatred in her voice as she unleashed several magic circles. As Odin pleaded, Gondal ignored him and unleashed a barrage of magic circles aimed at him with the intent of killing him. She could see Odin still alive once the dust settled, but he was severely wounded with burn and electricity marks on his body. He groaned in pain due to this. Again Gondal repeated the same and continued to do so for several times. She repeated this over and over again until Odin was barely alive. His clothes were tattered, his eye monocle was broken, showing his eye that was gone thanks to the deal he made for knowledge. Gondal was taking deep breaths to calm herself down. Issei then removed the blade as he spoke, you see there is a venom in the mortis blade. It is made of god-slaying magic. You will die a slow painful death. Odin became wide-eyed as Issei spoke, don't worry, you will die along with the rest of Asgard. Now Odin. Issei's eyes glowed a jet green as he spoke maniacally. Witness Ragnarok. Issei generated a screen as Odin looked up weakly. It was a huge space station right outside Asgard. With the screens in the underworld changing to the Death Star itself. Issei turned to the screen and announced with his voice increasing at every step, now supernatural worlds of devil, angel, fallen angel, yokai, Hindu, vampire and Greek factions and others. Witness the full power of the malib, witness the fall of the Norse factions. The beginning of the end of a regime that is known to lie and deceive humanity and support their own selfish goals and interests. This fierce machine which we have built, which you shall witness, will bring an end to the supernatural, to their cherished ones. All supernatural factions will fall to the might of the droid faction, and tonight, Norse will be the first faction to witness the beginning of the fall of the supernatural factions and the Kuo Treaty. Lakota, fire the Death Star, Issei commanded the malib leader as she spoke. As you wish, my lord. Issei took one final look at Odin, seeing the fear in his eyes, and spoke, goodbye. All bucker. Issei teleported everyone from the droid faction out of Asgard, leaving only some surviving Asgardians and Odin. He could see with his all-seeing eye, the infamous Death Star. The lasers were being generated onto a singular point, as Lakota announced, it is ready, my lord. Issei and the others had reached inside the Death Star as he commanded, fire. Odin looked up to see the Asgardian skies lit up by a giant green energy. The whole sky was illuminated. It was horrifying. That was the last thing he could think was of his wife, who may not have survived the onslaught, and even if she did, there was no way she could survive this one. Odin closed his eyes while cursing, damn you, Haidu. His fate was already sealed as the entirety of Asgard was blown into oblivion. There was no trace of Asgard, or its gods. They were gone, silenced, into nothingness. Issei looked at the scene with a serious look. He was happy that one of their tasks was over. Some people were still remaining to be dealt with. He looked at Malak, Grievous and Vader as they nodded. They knew what they had to do. He looked at the screen and spoke, oh, and if you are wondering, faction leaders, I will be coming to you guys. I hope you are ready. Issei snapped his fingers, and the four were teleported as the girls decided to recover for a while. They knew that Issei can deal with his three targets. Scene change. Underworld, 11:30 p.m. Secure the underworld now. Sekiruuyetei commanded the troops to form a perimeter, as he knew Issei would be coming soon enough. The entire Norse pantheon was wiped out from the surface of the planet. However, the door suddenly opened, startling the leaders, as a soldier revealed himself. Please, run, the devil soldier pleaded before having his life force sucked out of him, turning him into a husk. The leaders became worried, however that soon changed into anger, as they saw the one that was in front of them, except for Shiva and Indra, who were trying to assess the dragon's intentions. Talk about a bad welcome. Issei turned to the leaders, good evening, gentlemen and ladies. Issei spoke with a bow, as he could see the room being lit with either stares of anger, disbelief, fear or sadness. Issei turned to Sekiruuyetei and spoke, say, how is Ajuka doing? Oh wait, he is dead. Sekiruuyetei spoke with a growl, as he angrily responded, it was not enough for you to kill so many innocents, but now you dare show your face here. Issei only shook his head in disappointment and responded, you still don't see your faults. I should have expected that. Anyways, I am only here since there is one small thing I have left to do, Malak, Vader. Issei commanded Malak and Vader as they nodded, raising his hand in the air. The leaders tried to fight back, but they were frozen solid. They were unable to move or speak. They could move their eyeballs though. The combined telekinetic force was enough to subdue all the leaders and their associates entirely. They were helpless, as they could only watch Issei walk around. You know, I may have told you my intentions via Malak or even the recently viewing that I had displayed. I always thought that maybe my life would be better, but no, it was always die. But I am not here to dwell on the past. I mean, why did I reveal myself now? Why did I show myself to you guys right now? You must have a lot of questions, right? Well, fret not, I am here to answer all of that. Issei walked towards a helpless Grafia, who was struggling to break herself free. Sekiruuyetei and Rias were helpless, watching as Issei may intend to harm her. Oh, worry not, I am not here for her in any way. Malak, Vader, release her mouth. So that she can speak. Issei looked at his allies who nodded. He looked at Grafia. She was helpless and had tears in her eyes. Remember the first day, when all of this mess began, when you came into my rooftop and threatened me to come, thinking I was a weakling and glory stealer. So Grafia, what is your opinion of me now? Grafia could only sob in response as Issei spoke with an annoyed tone while grabbing her chin towards him. Look, I ain't here for a sob story. Lucifuge, I want to know what is your opinion of me. I am sorry. Issei grew even more frustrated with her remorse. It is too late to show any and all sorts of remorse right now. In his eyes, she is too far gone. Are you going to tell me your opinion of me now, or should I rip your tongue out? Grafia shivered his outburst as Sekiruuyetei gritted his teeth angrily and helplessly. She then spoke with fear and with tears falling from her eyes. Why, you're a monster, but you've become a monster, and it was it was our fault that things are like this. Much better. Issei spoke with a slightly relieved tone. He was not going to kill her now. At least not yet, he was going to keep her alive, but he was going to hurt her in a different way, before killing her. Seal her mouth, I don't want to deal with her sobbing. Malak and Vader nodded and did so, even they did not want to deal with her sobbing. Issei scanned around the room and spoke. But I assure you that I will be only taking the life of one person in this room today, you have my word, and I don't break my word. Issei looked around to see there was one person he hated the most in this room, and today it was their day to die. Ragnarok still remains. Issei dashed towards the person, while the leaders remained helpless in stopping him or doing anything, they all looked in horror as Issei had grabbed the person by the neck. It was Ria's Gremory. So Ria's Gremory, do you know what death tastes like? Ria's tried to speak but was unable to do so, thanks to Malak and Vader freezing her with their telekinesis. Surziches and Grafia were watching helplessly with Surziches crying in sadness and helplessness. Whatever remained of Ria's peerage, Sona's peerage and Sayurg's peerage were watching with horror and fear. I was not the only one that spread rumors about me in Kuo Academy and the underworld. Ria's Gremory had a hand in her actions, she is the reason why my life was so miserable, as she acted as Dai's assistant. This bitch thinks that she can get away by pinning the blame on my disgraceful brother and act as if I owe her life. Issei spoke angrily as Ria's was shivering in fear, sadly she was unable to move or do anything, her body was completely frozen, as he continued. Invading my privacy with my mates, entering my room unannounced and trying to have your way with me. Threatening to attack me several times along with the rest of your crappy peerage, your actions make Dai look like a saint at this point. You wanna know why? You did the same things Dai did, but you took it one step further, and for that, you will pay. Issei threw Rias to the ground and started to breathe fire, which belonged to Drag. Issei spoke, release her mouth, I want to hear her scream. Malak and Vader happily accepted this, as Issei sent the flames towards Rias, who kept screaming due to being burned fire. He sent a message to Athena, to be prepared. Please mercy, I am sorry. Issei screamed in pain as she was being burnt alive, she was unable to move while screaming in pain. He looked at Surziches who was crying tears of helplessness, as Issei spoke. In just a few seconds she will be done for, say your final prayers. Release the Siskin's mouth, I would love to hear some of his despair-ridden words. Malak and Vader nodded as Surziches shouted angrily. Lucifer, I swear to you Issei Haidu, I will hunt you down and make you pay with your life, you damn dragon. Surziches shouted at the top of his lungs, as Issei only gave a wry smile and responded. Man, I am so scared. Issei responded with a mocking tone making him grit his teeth with hatred, as Issei spoke, I would love to play with you, but not now. Right now, I have some other issues to attend. Issei and the others teleported to the hospital where Goru and Mickey were present. As soon as they left, everyone was released once they left. Surziches and Grafia rushed to Rias, but she was long gone, this included even her peerage or what remained of it. Surziches gritted his teeth in pure anger, he looked at Grafia as they vowed to make Issei pay for his actions at all costs. However, just as the scene was being played, Aika had a look of horror as she muttered, Lord Lucifer. Surziches angrily looked at her, he was ready to kill her for being related to Issei, but saw a look of horror on Aika's face as he and everyone else looked at the screen. It was the hospital, but not just any hospital, it was the same hospital where his parents were staying. No way, don't tell me that traitor is going to. Azazel spoke with horror and disbelief as Shemhazai retorted, he wouldn't go this far. We need to teleport there fast, stopping him now is something we should do. Amaterasu spoke with a tone of desperation. She looked at her fellow gods and leaders as they all decided to do that, but were unable to do so. No. Amaterasu spoke with fear as Susanoo clenched his fists with anger and spoke, they have isolated the hospital, we can't reach there. Scene change, Citri Hospital, 12:30 p.m. Athena and Issei were standing in the Citri Hospital, as he was surrounded by Malak and the others, he was present in the hospital bed, as he saw his now hostage parents. Issei had a smirk, as he looked at his parents who had a look of despair and fear, as Gore requested. Why? Issei clenched his fists in anger, how could he not see what had happened, his life had been so miserable, he wanted to end his life right now, however Athena shook her head, and Issei understood it. You of all people should know, you listened to Dai blindly for so long, abandoned and neglected me for so long, and you still ask why. I was never loved ever in my life, and Dai got away with doing so much to me, both physically and mentally, and what you did. You did nothing, Issei exclaimed angrily as Goru and Mickey looked down in shame and sadness, as Mickey spoke sadly. Issei. I am sorry. Issei retorted in an angered tone, you're sorry, no amount of sorry will fix the damage you have done to me, there is only one way to end this, mother, father. What are you going to do? Issei only chuckled in response as he brought out a rock, as suddenly chains started to wrap around his parents' limbs, as Issei brought out a simple gun, as he spoke, ending this once and for all. The parents had a look of horror as Issei immediately shot his father in the head which killed him instantly. Mickey tried to scream as Issei immediately shot her in the head, he did not want to deal with them screaming. She soon passed away right after that. Issei took a deep breath to calm himself as he spoke. Alright, let's leave this place. There is nothing that can be done now. Issei looked at the screen as he spoke. Well, with it I declare that Ragnarok has ended with another successful victory for the droid faction and a loss for the faction leaders, but fret not, you will be seeing me, or I should say us, very soon. Be very afraid, faction leaders, cause. Issei points towards them and spoke with a massive grin. You're next. Issei snapped his fingers and all screens went off. He knew panic and chaos would ensue next. He then teleported everyone back to the Highschool residence, as Malak, Grievous and Vader also returned to the residence. Well, good job everyone, and with what we have done, I doubt Serziches would even show his ugly face or any of the supernatural without an army. If anything, he is going to weep that spoiled bitch's death, which means Kuo Town is now ours. The group minus Athena laughed maniacally at this. I have to agree, this whole mansion is now ours. Additionally, the money we have embezzled from the companies should keep us surviving for millennia to come. These supernatural beings had hoarded so much money to live a life of luxury, now we have it in our hands. Malak added as the group started to laugh upon this as well. Issei then turns to a more serious attitude as he spoke seriously. I'd say we should begin our attack again soon enough. We will start planning for our next faction. We won't let them recover or prepare. Malak and the other generals understood what this meant as Vader asked, my lord, who should we attack then? Issei looked at Athena, who gave a nod as a response. We will attack Greek next. Once one of their strongest falls, then the rest will follow suit. The faction's demise is inevitable at this point. Athena had a bright smile, she couldn't wait to destroy Zeus. However, there was another good news that Issei was going to receive tonight. Indeed, we will prepare, but is it alright if we ever wish to visit this place? Vader asked with a hopeful tone as Issei responded, why ask? This is your home, you can visit anytime you want, and if anything, those fools are the ones that were paying for our expenditures before. Now we use their money to do the same, only difference being we are the ones paying for this house they built. Issei ended with a mocking tone as Vader nodded in response. Malak then spoke, very well, we will take our leave. Until then, good night. Good night, everyone. Malak, Grievous and Vader teleported away as Issei and Athena were left alone. Ice, can I speak to you? It's important. Yes, what is the matter? Athena looked away, she did not know how to tell this to Issei as she spoke. I need you to come follow me. Okay? Issei did so, as he followed Athena to Artemis's room as he looked at her and spoke, you brought me here. Why? Come inside, I have some news to give you. Issei nodded as the Athena knocked the door, with Artemis speaking from the other side. Yes. I have brought Ice with me. Artie, are you free right now? Artemis responded after a small while, come in. The duo soon entered as Artemis could be seen, she seemed to be slightly weaker than what she now, as Issei asked with concern while walking towards her and keeping his hand on her shoulder. Artie, are you alright? Why yeah. I am fine. Issei kept his hand and pulled her towards him, making her flustered. She however shook it off and spoke, Ice. I have something to tell you. Go ahead. Issei had a foreboding feeling that something drastic was about to happen, however he knew that Artemis won't abandon or betray him, she was not the type to do so. This morning, I went to the doctor today morning, and well, from the past few days, I have been having food cravings and have been puking almost every few hours or so. Artemis spoke with sadness as Issei spoke with equal sadness and anger. Why did you not tell me this? You were sick and I had no idea about it. I just didn't want to trouble you, you were working so hard on the Death Star, and I didn't want to bother you with my troubles. I assumed it would go after a while. But Athena came to my room and saw this. I was going to tell you about it once we were done about the Norse faction. Issei shook his head and responded. Artie, know this, I would even delay my plans if I knew you were sick. You shouldn't hide things like these from me, you were sick and your life holds weight more than destruction, and you mean a lot to me. Artemis had a blush upon this as she looks away and speaks, I'm sorry. You needn't be sorry for this, what you did was selflessness, but reckless. Next time, please don't hesitate to tell me this. Artemis looked at him and nodded sadly as Issei then asked, so what happened when you went to the doctor? I went to the doctor and told him my issues. He then asked me to take the pregnancy test to make sure that I wasn't pregnant since my symptoms matched that. Issei widened his eyes as Drake spoke mentally. Should I bring the confetti? Issei responded with a glare, shush, Drake. So what happened, Artemis? What were the results? Artemis had a blush and showed him the pregnancy test kit. Issei took one look at it and widened his eyes as he looked at Artemis as he asked in disbelief, is this true? Is that why you have been so weak? Yes. I never expected it to, but I guess. I am going to be a mother. Artemis spoke with a blush as Issei had a look of surprise by this, he did not expect that Issei would be a father at such a young age. Artemis was fearful, she did not know how Issei would react, she had a bad feeling that something bad might happen, however what happened next even surprised her. I am going to be a father. I am so happy. Issei's words made Artemis surprised as he hugged her without hesitation and lifted her in the air as he rolled her around. Artemis was stunned by what was happening, while Athena remained flabbergasted. She did not expect Issei to take the news so well. Issei, on the other hand, was beyond happy. He was just pronounced a father and he couldn't be more happier. Today was the best day of his life. Issei soon puts her down and speaks, words can't describe how happy I am. You are going to be a mother and I am going to be a father. I am so happy. Artemis soon lost her surprised look and teared up. Him being happy was the best thing that could happen to her. She also soon became happy as she spoke with a happier smile. I am going to be a mother. See Artie, I told you, tell Issei, things would go well. Artemis looked at her sister and gave a nod while she rubbed her tears as Issei soon approaches her and kisses her on the forehead, which made her even more blushing as Issei spoke. So, any hopes on who the child was going to be? Artemis spoke with a pout. I told you I'd love a boy, although I wouldn't mind if it was a girl. Regardless, I would love them unconditionally. Artemis ended with a smile as she put her hand on her stomach in happiness. She was soon going to be a mother, a feeling she has never experienced in her life. Issei then speaks. Come, I will rest with you tonight. Artemis looked at Issei and nodded as Athena also decided to sleep next to Issei. Issei helped her on the bed. Despite her being a goddess, Issei was still protective. Issei and Athena took one side each of the bed as Artemis took the center. Athena did not care if Issei was sleeping next to her since she was going to be an aunt or second mother to Artemis's unborn child. Partner, congratulations. Drake congratulated Issei for him being a father as Issei responded, thanks Drake. But partner, you should be careful, given your current situation. You should protect your child, especially now that both Artemis and Athena are both targets of the factions. Issei nodded seriously. There was no way he was going to let his unborn child be put under harm, no matter what happens. If anything happens to his child, the factions will beg for death. He will put them under so much pain, torture and torment that they will beg for their deaths. They will no longer be called supernatural, just tortured souls begging for mercy or death, which they will only get if Issei wills it. Issei shook his head on such thoughts. Well, yes, he will protect his child. It was a moment of joy for Issei and the rest of them. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.